Love. Some would say it took a backseat when the pandemic forced us apart. As a family-run and proudly Canadian-owned company, Charm Diamond Centers saw the need to bring us together with tales of love and created the Canadian Love Map podcast. Since then, we've shared hundreds of real, uplifting stories that prove love conquers all. So thank you for listening. We couldn't do it without you. And remember, love starts here. What the world needs now is love. More love.
Stars literally aligned.
He's always been the one.
There's someone out there for everyone.
I'm Nancy Regan, your host on the Canadian Love Map. We are on a journey to uncover and share love stories of all kinds.
He's never forgotten to bring me flowers.
We're hoping we're going to give a little good news to this world.
Even in these dark times, the life continues to go on.
It's all about compassion, devotion, adventure, and of course, love.
Everybody needs somebody. Everybody needs love.
This is the Canadian Love Map.
Well, love is the most important thing.
Not a lot of people have considered that a New Year's resolution doesn't have to be suffering, that it can be fun. And then a lot of people said things like, oh, I'm going to do this for dogs. I'm going to try 100 different kinds of pasta or whatever, and that people, I think, just latched on to the frivolity is a good word for it.
Today's love story belongs to Kate Leth and a whole lot of cats. Many people make New Year's resolutions. Some want to go to the gym more. Others choose things like sobriety or drinking more water. But this one Canadian cartoonist is striving for something they describe as a side quest. Kate has combined their passions and created a project with the goal of petting and drawing 100 cats this year. And since we're close to the halfway mark of 2024, we invited Kate in to see how the quest has been going. This is the Canadian Love Map. Kate, welcome to the Canadian Love Map.
Thank you. Hi. It's nice to be here.
You are the first guest who's ever brought a journal exactly like this. What is it? Tell me.
So this is the journal that I am keeping this year because I am on a journey to pet 100 cats and document them. So the journal has in it every cat that I've pet, a little illustration of them, and then some fun facts and how soft they are.
So you could say it's a journal in which you write about your felines.
Oh my God. Sorry. It's beautiful.
We were just talking about puns before the recording. I could not resist.
It's perfect.
Perfect? Oh, boy.
Many years ago, I wrote a comic for Marvel called Hellcat, and the volumes were titled Hooked on a Feline, Careless Whiskers. I cannot remember the third one. Wow, that's very embarrassing. But so I'm no stranger to this.
We're a match made in cat heaven.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. Even though I will say in a transparent way that I am slightly more on the dog side, just because I'm allergic to cats.
Diversity is so important.
But right on. But today I'm celebrating your love of cats, and I want to know where it started.
Well, I have been a cat person for many years. So when I was growing up, my mom was very allergic, and we only had guinea pigs, and we had a lot of guinea pigs. And when I moved out...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you there because I really need you to qualify or quantify a lot of guinea pigs.
Okay, so minimum number was 3, maximum was 9 at one point, because 2 of them that were in the same cage turned out to not both be girls. So... then we had 5 more. But yeah, so I grew up with mostly those. I had a mouse at one point, but it wasn't until I moved out in my early 20s that I lived with someone who had a cat, realized how amazing they were. And then when he moved out, I immediately had to get a cat. And I've just sort of been on that track ever since.
Okay, so what's so great about cats? You say you realized how amazing they were when you first moved in with a cat. What was it that converted you?
Also, the funny thing is, in that same house, the first cat that lived there, because this guy with the good cat moved in later, the first cat I lived with was a terror who would hide behind curtains and jump up at you and sink his claws and teeth into your ankles. So you had to walk around the house with like knee-high socks on, or really thick socks. So I wasn't a crazy cat person at that point.
That's a bad roommate.
That was a bad situation. But then the second cat moved in and she would cuddle in bed with you like a stuffed animal. She would sleep next to your head. She was so sweet and so kind. And when they moved out, I was like, oh, I need to have this again. And then I got a cat who was interesting. She was wild. But yeah, I don't know. I love them. They're so weird. Every cat is weird. There's not a normal cat out there. And I find them so interesting. Like, I think dogs are great. I like dogs. I've never lived with one, but I do appreciate them. But cats are, I don't know. They're just, I love how weird they are.
Okay, interesting, because people who tend to be dog people think that cats are aloof and they do their own thing and they are not always that affectionate. I want you to disabuse our listeners of that mistaken impression.
I think
if that's what it is.
I think it's that dogs will love you, and that sort of comes with the territory. Like, that is what they do. Cats, you sort of have to earn it. You got to work for it.
Yeah.
I think that that requests a certain kind of person who wants to earn that love. But I don't know. Once you get to know them, once you live with a cat that you vibe with, it's just really, like, you feel so honored when they come and sleep next to you because you're like, ooh, this wasn't easy.
So they're not, tell me if I'm getting this right, they're not necessarily into unconditional love, but the love they give you is awesome.
Yes, definitely. I don't know what, like, listen, you could psychoanalyze that. And many have. But I like, there's nothing more special than, you know, you go to somebody's house and they're like, oh, this cat's very shy. She's not going to be really friendly. And then she comes over and sit next to you and you're like, oh, I did it. I did it. I have been approved.
I have not been approved yet. Maybe that's my problem because I have a grand cat. One of my sons has a cat with his girlfriend, and it is admittedly a really cute little animal. But when I show up, whoosh, it's gone.
That's so funny because cats usually love people who are allergic to them. Like, that is pretty
That's
standard.
True.
Yeah.
That is true. They're drawn to me usually.
Yeah, anytime someone who's come to my house who is allergic, even mildly, like, my cat will just right immediately up to them. And that is a constant.
Okay, so that's your relationship with cats. Tell me about your relationship with drawing.
So I have been a cartoonist and comics person since 2011. So I worked at Strange Adventures in Halifax's comic store for about 5 years. And while I dropped out of art school and I was working there, and I started doing illustrations and things like that for the store, for our ads or for the little signs in the store. And then 'twas the era of Tumblr. To flash back to a bygone time.
I forgot about Tumblr.
Oh, I never could. And so I started posting comics and illustrations on Tumblr, and that was sort of how I started to build an audience and got my first published work. And that begat a career in comics and writing and illustration. So I primarily, in my, financially lucrative side of my career, write for other people to illustrate or animate, because I do cartoons as well. But I do a lot of my own journal comics. I always have, and they're sketchy and I always say there are singers and musicians, and then there are songwriters who learn how to sing or play instruments because they want people to listen to what they're saying. And this is how I approached art. It's like, I have things to say and I want people to actually read them. So I'm just going to draw little pictures on it, and that'll get people to pay attention. And that's how I got into making comics.
I love that, actually, because so many people are prevented from being creative and drawing and even trying painting by the assumption that they are not creative, and that there's a fear-based thought in there that says, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to do something that I'm bad at.
Oh, yeah. And I suffer from that. I talk all the time about the fear of the blank canvas. Nothing is scarier.
Ooh, me too.
Right? So it was, I've been doing this for a while, and it's still, I would never tell anyone that I'm an artist before I'm a writer. It is the thing I did. I've taught myself. I did go to art school for a couple of years, but for photography, I've had a very interesting career path.
How did that inform what you're doing now? Even though it was photography, can you see how it laid a base somehow for what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It has informed so much. When I write for animation, I'm always thinking about shots and composition and things like that, the way I draw and illustrate things is totally informed by what I love in photography and the way shots are composed and things like that. It all kind of goes together. I mean, I was also a makeup artist for a while, and that color theory and, it all plays into each other. I've always been doing one creative thing or another. I just have very intense ADHD, so I can't really stick with one for a super long time.
What's that like?
Yeah. Unrelatable, I'm sure.
We're just a little neurodivergent, but we'll celebrate that in this room.
Absolutely.
As I say to my kids, I would never trade my very disorganized, messy, yet creative brain for an organized, linear one at this stage of my life. No way.
I would love to be able to do my taxes. That would be so nice.
You get someone else to do them. That's
exactly.
That's the solution. Trust me.
But yeah, I've never really been good for any length of time at anything that doesn't have some sort of creative angle to it. Like even when I've had jobs where I'm writing, in a writer's room doing that sort of structured formal thing, I'm still like drawing comics on, my notepad and posting them separately. I can't seem to quit it.
What is it about writing that you love?
I just always have. I don't know. I've always been a words person. I started reading really young. I mean, that's my side of the neurodivergence. Like I was reading when I was 2. I was ahead of grade. I did the, whole gifted program in Ontario, and it was primarily for that. Like math has never been my strong suit, but writing always has. I love words. I love poetry. I love all those things, and I love expressing myself that way, but I can't play a musical instrument, so I just do it on paper.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So many of your talents and interests have been woven together in this new project you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm curious. I know that it had something to do with the New Year's resolution, but I need to hear the story.
So I was talking with a friend of mine around New Year's because for some reason, this particular New Year's, and I don't know what it was, I'm not someone who generally puts a lot of stock into resolutions. I'm not the kind of person who's like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do these things because like we're just getting by, man. Survive is the goal. But I was talking to a friend and we were out walking around and I was like, okay, what I would like to do is make a side quest for myself, a reason to leave the house. I work from home. Everything I do is self-starting. Like I write, I illustrate, I run an Etsy, I do all these things, but I do them in my apartment and I live alone and I need to get out of the house more. Mm-hmm. So we were trying to think of ways to do that. And my friend, Catherine, suggested, why don't you try and pet cats or something? And then we sort of started workshopping that and, finding a good number because 100 is doable. 100 is one every 3.65 days or whatever, however many days in a year. That's feasible. 365, too many cats.
Lots of cats
too many
around.
Cats. 100, I figured I could do. And yeah, then I was like, okay, well, I'll draw them because that's what I like to do. And it was also weirdly, part of the conversation was the frustration with AI art and how everything is so becoming very, very fake in that way. And it's brought me back to wanting to, draw freehand with pen, scratchy in a notepad as opposed to very polished, very finished. Even I do a lot of work on my tablet, when I'm doing finished work. So just having something that is this messy and you can just do it as you go is very fun and very real. And I don't know, that's part of it too.
So you're talking about imperfection.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I know, it's painful.
No,
Call me Rapunzel. No, I love this idea.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of getting out of your own comfort zone. And after all, when you have a dog, you have to walk the dog. As you say, you would have no real reason to get out of the house.
Yeah.
But also you're finding connection with other human beings who happen to be attached to those cats.
Totally. It's already, I mean, I'm at 39 so far as of this recording, and there are so many opportunities that I found where I have met new people or made new connections or reconnected with people I haven't talked to or seen in a while to meet a cat, to go, and then, I'll meet someone, they'll say, oh, I have a cat, come pet my cat. I'll go pet the cat. We have a whole conversation. And then they'll tell me, oh, I have a friend who lives in this area and they have a cat, and they'll connect me. And so it has led to all of these fun, weird, unexpected interactions and circumstances. And it's so cool. And everyone who's involved with it is so excited and thinks it's so wholesome And so much of what I do, like a lot of my personal comics are very emotional, very vulnerable. I'm a real feelings heavy emo person.
Yeah.
So this is just pure cute, not trite. I don't think it's like
frivolity in a way.
Yeah. And that is, everyone seems to really enjoy that, and so do I.
So I better back up and ask what your intention was. So we talked about your thought about petting cats, and then how did you set out to say, here's what the project is going to be?
Well, I made a TikTok. So I've had a TikTok account for a couple of years. I started it, so I had top surgery in April of 2022, and I started documenting the recovery of that process, because normally how I document experiences like that is by making comics. But after you have a major surgery like that, you are so high. And I couldn't, the process of having to draw it and then sit at a computer and scan it and edit it and post it was just completely beyond me. So it's like, I'll just make these little videos about it. And then that started building an audience, and that, has become a thing. And then I posted about this cat project, because I'll talk about other things too. I talk a lot about Taylor Swift and the mycelial network and autism, things that all go together.
Somewhat diverse, bringing diversity back into it.
These are the things I love and care about.
Yeah.
And so I made a video about the cat journal. It's always the stuff you do in a one-off, like 2 seconds without thinking about it, that gets huge.
Yeah.
And so I shared this, left my house.
Tell
went
me
to do
about
something
it.
else.
Sorry, before you go on, tell me a little bit about it, and maybe we'll play a quick clip of it.
My New Year's resolution was to pet 100 cats, and here's how it's going so far. First of all, this is the journal I got. It's got a little tiger on it, which I think is very cute. I made a tally, and as you can see, as of January 8th, I have pet 7 cats. So let me show you. January 1st at midnight, I was at my friend Adam and Sarah's house. When I got home from their place on New Year's Eve, I had to pet my own cat. This is Callie, the cat. That day, I went on a walk with my friend Catherine. We met this cat on the street. We don't know who. Third, I went to my friend Emma's house to work, and this is her cat, Kimpy. Moving on to Copper, my friend Catherine's cat. She is a medium-haired dilute tortie. I went to IKEA yesterday, perhaps just as an excuse to have me come in and pet my biological brother, Carson. He's really wonderful. He's so weird. I want to be clear that no matter what I rate these cats, they are all a 10 out of 10, a 15 out of 10. Every cat is weird and every cat is perfect.
It was pretty straightforward. I just said, New Year's resolutions can be whatever you want. They don't have to be about self-betterment or whatever. This year, I'm going to try and pet 100 cats and document it. And that was it. Just very, very simple and straightforward. And people just latched onto it in a massive way. And it was just shocking. But that was the only plan. I hadn't really, at that point, figured out how I was going to do it. I hadn't started doing it. And then, New Year's Eve, I was at a friend's house. Their cat was there. I was like, okay, I'm going to pet the cat and I'm going to draw the cat. And then it just sort of snowballed from there.
It's very official. I'm about to pet the cat.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
We couldn't share the great stories that we do here on the Canadian Love Map podcast without the amazing support of Charm Diamond Centres. They are Canada's largest family-owned jeweler, and they're proud to be putting love on the map. The folks at Charm Diamond Centres are thrilled to be a part of your love story. So visit charmdiamondcenters.com or one of your local stores. Love starts here. What sort of reaction did you get from people when you say, that TikTok went far and wide? What were the individual reactions like?
People just really liked the idea. I think it was a thing that not a lot of people have considered, that, a New Year's resolution doesn't have to be suffering, that it can be fun, that you can. And then a lot of people said things like, oh, I'm going to do this for dogs. I'm going to do this for this other thing. I'm going to try 100 different kinds of pasta or whatever, and that it was just kind of, people, I think, just latched on to frivolity is a good word for it.
I also love the fact that, as you say, it's not about suffering. It's the opposite. It's about giving yourself a gift.
Yeah. And it does. It gets me out of the house. I will go for long walks, especially as the weather is getting warmer. It's quite nice. It was hard to start this in January.
I can see that.
There were a lot of cat petting dates that I had canceled because of snowstorms. But now I can just go out a-wandering and I find cats, and people are a lot more, available to have me come and meet new ones. So that's been a fun part. It's getting easier the further we get into the year, which is fun.
I interviewed the author Elizabeth Gilbert several years ago, I think 2017 or something. And she told me that she doesn't ask people to have coffee or tea or anything. But if she invites someone over to her home, she'll say, do you want to come over and color?
Oh, I love that.
Right?
I love that.
It strikes me that it's very similar to this because it's about sharing an interest and having fun and relaxing.
And I think, like, you talk about neurodivergence. Like, the older I get and the more I understand that way that my brain works, the more I realize the value of an activity that you're doing. It's not just going for coffee. You're not just sitting across from someone. You got to make conversation. The only distraction is the food you are consuming. I love to go to a crafternoon. I love to go, I'm a big Swiftie. I love the events where everybody's making friendship bracelets and doing all that kind of stuff. So the cat petting is like, it takes out the anxiety of just cold call going to a stranger's house. Like, I have a thing, you have a cat. You love your cat, you're going to tell me about the cat. I'm going to meet the cat. We're going to have fun interactions. We're going to swap stories about cats. There's a limited amount of time. We can both kind of feel it's been about like 45 minutes, an hour. It's time for me to go. It's great. It is a perfect way to meet people.
That's great. So it's not just an animal, it's a conversation piece.
Oh, absolutely. And I learned so much and everyone has stories about their cats or previous cats or friends' cats. People will tell me about where they got the cats, how the cats were named. I met a cat named Jess, and it was this came from a litter where all the cats were named after characters from New Girl, and this was the relationship with the cats. And, everybody's got a fun story, especially if the cats were adopted or, they got them from a friend. Like, my friend Emma has a cat who was rescued from Hurricane Katrina and now lives here and is just the sweetest, scrungliest, oldest cat in the world. And, they're all really interesting. So I love that.
Will you do me a favor and walk us through a few pages of your journal and tell us about some of the cats?
I do this as quietly as possible unless we can get real ASMR with it. So basically each page is, I have the date, I have the time I ran into the cat, I have an illustration, and then so generally the ratings I started with were eagerness to be pet and softness rating, but they've evolved over time.
I didn't know there was a rating system.
There's a rating system. Yeah. So eagerness to be pet is basically how excited the cat is to be pet, because some cats love it. They'll run right up to you and roll all over you.
Love me.
Absolutely. And then some cats are very, very shy and cautious. And again, you got to work for it. But I'm very good at working for it. I'm very good with cats. So it's got that. And then the softness rating has evolved because some cats are soft and some cats are silky. And it's very different, but you can't rate a silky cat under softness, especially if you're comparing it to a long-haired cat, because a long-haired cat generally always going to be a 10 out of 10, unless it's a street cat. And then sometimes they're, scrunglier. But I have evolved it sometimes because sometimes the softness or silkiness of a cat is not really relevant to the experience. So there's things in here now like, what do we got here? Vocal stylings, 9 out of 10. Attitude, 10 out of 10. They've evolved, and I'm just sort of allowing that to happen. Street cred, 10 out of 10 for this one cat.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I think I'd like to score high on that, street cred.
Yeah. Well, it was a cat that was hanging out in front of a punk house that had a whole bunch of, like, signs in the window and was very definitely, like, art students, punk band. And he was this cat was hilarious. The first thing he did when I approached him was like turn around and present his butt to me. Just butt in the air, like, hello, please scritch me. And I did. And he loved it. So, eagerness to be pet, but going about it in an interesting way.
Do you have favorites?
They're
I
all
know
my
you're
favorites.
rating them.
They're all my favorite. The thing about it is they're all 10 out of 10s because every cat is a 10 out of 10. But I have met some really fun ones. There was a cat that I met who was wearing a onesie because she'd recently had surgery. That was amazing. Also a very sweet, fun cat. There's a couple street cats that I've met that are they're street cats. There's this thing they do, and they're not necessarily like they live on the street, but they're outdoor cats. There's this thing that they'll do, especially when it's nice and sunny out, where they will just flop in front of you. Like, if you've experienced it, they'll kind of come up and rub on your legs, and then they'll just flop or tumble over your feet or whatever. I love that experience. It's very nice.
So sometimes do you document cats that don't have an owner that you know of?
Yeah, and then I just kind of give them a random name or a descriptor. Like the guy in here, I met a street cat the other day, don't know his name, but I called him the Scrungler because there was just something about this cat, very just the most street cat, kind of greasy, kind of like frazzled, but cool. Very, I don't know, something about it. Sometimes they have a tag. Sometimes the tag doesn't have a name. sometimes I just got to make something up. So, yeah. But what's really fun is that because a number of local people have started following this online, I've had people comment and tell me the cat's name, or this is where that cat lives, or I know that cat, it's this cat. And that's really fun.
Okay, so that makes me curious. Have you ever found a cat, seen the tag, and called the number?
No.
Oh.
I'm shy to do it.
Oh, I think you should. I think that's the next frontier.
I've thought a number of times, and I won't do this because I'm not always great with social cues, but there's certain things where I'm like, that would be weird.
That might be overstepping.
Yes.
You can say, I'm legit. I've been on a podcast.
So I have had that happen where I was walking out one of the really nice days here, and I saw a cat in a backyard. And the cat was just this big fat tuxedo cat on a lead, like had a leash from its collar to a stake in the ground. And I was like, oh my God, I want to pet that cat. But there was a person by the cat doing gardening. And I'm just standing at the end of the driveway, mulling over, should I approach? Should I not approach? And then she looks up and looks at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, sorry, I was looking at your cat. And then I start walking away. I'm like, hey. Can I come pet your cat? And so then I showed her the journal. I didn't have the journal on me.
The journal would be a very good prop in this
I brought out my
instance.
Instagram. I was like, here, it
Good.
exists. You can follow it. This is a real thing. Yeah. And then, then I got to know the cat's name. I pet the cat. It was a lovely impromptu interaction. But I have thought about, there are cats all over the city that live in windows. You see them all the time, especially like in my neighborhood. I'll see the same ones over and over again that aren't outdoor cats. But there's a cat there. And I keep being like, should I make some sort of pamphlet to leave in people's mailboxes? Like, hi, I promise I'm not weird. I am, but safe,
Weird in a good way.
Yeah. Can I pet your cat?
So what have you learned about what cats mean to their humans?
I think it's something I've already known. I mean, two of my closest friends and I are in a group chat where 90% of what we post is our cats. And it doesn't matter if we've posted 800 photos of the cat doing the same thing. We'll post 100 more. And every time we'll all be like, yes, oh my God, how does she do it? Perfect, exquisite, excellent form. And so I know like people who love cats really, really love their cats, and they get excited about their cats being featured in a thing and being drawn. And so I don't know. It's just really nice. I don't think I've learned anything I didn't really already know. I know they mean a lot to people. And a lot of people who've had cats have had them for a long time, or especially now where I'm in my 30s, a lot of people are maybe on their second cat. You know what I mean? And that's really fun because there's this shared experience of here's how my new cat is so different from my old cat. And that's always fun because they're never the same.
Yeah, they're individuals like humans.
Yeah. I mean, my new cat so she's a huge munchkin cat, which sounds counterintuitive, but she is the tallest. So a munchkin cat
I was going to say, I'm going to need an explanation about that.
Sorry, this is my special interest. So munchkin cats have shorter legs. They're not a breed. It's just a genetic thing that happens sometimes. So they've got shorter legs than a normal cat, and their faces are kind of more cartoonish. Like they've got littler faces, big head. You know what I mean? Big eyes, tinier ears. They're really cute, and they're kind of built like a dachshund, but cat version. Anyway, my cat is the tallest version of a munchkin cat, and she's huge. So she's super funny and weird and silly, very different than my former cat. But yeah, that is a very common shared experience.
So has this project exceeded your expectations?
Oh, in every way. Yeah.
Like what did you think it was going to be as compared to what it's turned out to be?
I thought it was just going to be a thing that I quietly did for fun, maybe with some friends, maybe posted when I, hit a big milestone or whatever. And then I was on TV twice about it. I'm here, and it has become a thing that people follow and are interested in and I've gone to parties recently. So I'm always networking for the Cat Journal every time I go to an event.
So
I made these stickers that I handed out at a Taylor Swift Super Bowl party that said, "Can I pet your cat?" And then on the back had information about the project. And this actually led to me petting multiple cats. So it was great. But I do this at parties. But the fun thing is that it's been going on for long enough now that I'll go to a party and someone will just walk up to me and go, "Hi, I have a cat."
Oh, you are officially the cat whisperer.
Yeah, it's great.
Did you hear the purr in there? Whisperer.
I did.
Sorry.
I appreciated it.
Yeah, I'm going to stop that now.
No, never. Be yourself.
But that is so cool that you've gotten this reputation, but also that it has, I like to think, I've heard from so many people, particularly earlier on in 2020 when we started the podcast, that this in some ways was light in the darkness.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what this project is, I'm sure, for people.
Absolutely. I think it is, it's just joy. It's just fun. It's just lighthearted. And I'm not someone who generally, I say that I work so much in kids media and so much of what I make is very fun and lighthearted and good, but this is such a personal thing. And to be involved with so many people, the necessity of the project is there's only so many outdoor cats, you got to meet people. And I'm actually going to Toronto in May, and I'm booking. I'm booking cats.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to tell all of my Toronto friends.
Please do. Please do. I'm there for a week. And so there is this app called Shop Cats that people told me about when I started this project, because when you post a TikTok, it doesn't say this person lives in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and so most of the things you're going to recommend don't exist here.
Right.
So everyone said, oh, use this app for Shop Cats. I downloaded it. There's like 2 entries. Basically what it does is if you find a store that has a cat, you enter it into the app. So when you open the app, it gives you a map of places where you can find cats. So I'm going to do that when I go to Toronto because fantastic. Why not? It just doesn't really exist here. There aren't enough. There are a few, and I've been to several, but not all of them. So,
as someone who's very food driven, I would suggest that you consider offering your services to document their cats if they give you a meal.
See, I don't want to request anything. I'm like, this is a selfless thing. Sometimes I get treats out of it. That's always fun, but
I'm clearly much more greedy than you are.
Oh, I'm on my hustle for everything else in my life. This is my only selfless act. Please buy my book.
I love it. So I want to know now about that book you just mentioned.
So I put out a book last year, and it is the first one that I've fully written and illustrated rather than doing just the writing. It's called Mulgoff. It is a coming-of-age semi-autobiographical story. It's very queer. It is set in the east coast of Canada in a town that is definitely not Halifax. And it's set in 2006. It's very emo mall culture, a lot of feelings, and I'm very excited about it. Yeah, it came out in September last year. It's my debut of sorts.
Congratulations. I know what that's like, and it's really
scary
exciting and terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always say I went into a spiral of anxiety the day my book went to the printer.
Oh, yeah. And it was the same week as my 30th birthday, and I was at a convention in Alberta. So it was great for me. I did excellently at it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this journal of yours, where is this going?
I think when I'm done, I would like to make it as some sort of book or a zine or something. Including photographs and stuff is iffy because if it's, someone else's cat, I don't have permission, whatever. But the illustrations, I think I'm good to go. But I would love to do it as a project. I would love to do it as a fundraiser for the SPCA, some sort of shelter, things like that. But all of my cats have been shelter cats. I'm a huge, I love adopting. So I would love to do something like that. And I would love to do a one where you could enter your own cats in, like a blank journal that has space for illustrations and ratings and things like that. I think that would be really fun.
And that immediately makes me think of kids. Have a lot of kids seen this project and been intrigued by it?
Yeah, there's actually every once in a while, I'll have a week where I only pet one new cat or I don't pet any cats because I'm sick or something. And then I think about not updating for that week. But there was this one person who commented on one of my very early TikToks and was like, my son is 6. He lives for these updates every week. So I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know your child, but I think of him every week. Like, some kid out there loves this, so I'm going to keep doing it. So yeah, I think they do. And I'm working with a local library to hopefully do an event in the spring or the summer of like drawing cats with kids and stuff about this project, which would be very cool.
That's beautiful, because you're a great example of someone who, as you say, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a sketch, even with pen, and you make mistakes and you have fun.
Yeah, exactly. I've had so many people give recommendations so all the illustrations are in black and white. I do them with a pen. I sketch them out very loosely beforehand, but I like that sort of rough look of them. It's very organic. But that messiness is so some people have wanted me to make them more realistic or to add color or to, whatever. And that's just not, it's tricky when you have a multicolored cat. Orange is very hard to translate into black and white, but I do my best. It's just sort of, that's the challenge I've given myself, and I'm going to stick with it.
I love everything about this project.
Thank you.
I am so happy you came to talk to us today.
Thank you.
And my one last question is, if you were a cat, what kind of cat would you be?
Ooh, I mean, I want to say the tallest version of a munchkin cat, but I think a tortoiseshell. There's a thing people say, or a thing people call tortitude, which is that all tortoiseshell cats have an attitude. And my former cat was a tortoiseshell, and I just love them. I think they're funny and weird, and they come in so many varieties. No two tortoiseshells are the same. It's just the more diluted version of a calico rather than big spots of different colors. It's like little bits all over. So yeah, probably that. I would hope I would have really the white socks. I love the little white socks.
And what would your rating be on the silky, and what are the other ratings?
Well, silky and softness. I think eagerness to be pet, I would probably be 6 to 7. I'm not a huge hugger, but if I were a cat, maybe I'd like it more. I think probably catitude or street cred would be a little higher.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so tell me where people can find you, because I know a lot of people are going to immediately have their thumbs going and want to look you up.
So the Cat Journal is most prominently documented on Instagram. My name there is just my name. It's at Kate Leth. And then on TikTok, I do a video update every week, and that's Kate Lethargy, like the word, yes. Because my name was taken somehow. And yeah, so those are the primary places to find me. There are links in the bios there for everything else that I do, books, shop, every other thing.
Cool. That is the best. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
this, and thank you for doing it.
Oh my gosh.
Because
thank
you're lighting up the world.
I'm trying, one cat at a time.
Yeehaw. Thanks so much for listening to the Canadian Love Map. This podcast is presented and made possible by Charm Diamond Centers. It's hosted by me, Nancy Regan, and is produced and distributed by Podstarter. We love sharing love stories of all kinds, and that could include yours. So do you or someone you know have an uplifting tale to tell? Reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram using @CanadianLoveMap or email producer@podstarter.io. We'll be back next week with another love story to add to the map.